Welcome to another Explainer. Today, we're diving into a quiet, but honestly, super rapid shift in how we humans organize ourselves. We're talking about moving from traditional, centralized companies to decentralized digital communities. Basically, we're cracking the code on DAOs.
So, let's kick things off with a pretty wild question. What if you literally didn't need a CEO? For centuries, right? Every organization, banks, schools, massive corporations, they've all been built top-down. But what if our coordination could rely on trusting, completely transparent computer code instead of, well, fallible human leaders? What if we could just remove the traditional boss from the equation entirely?
To wrap our heads around this huge paradigm shift, we've got a quick 6-step roadmap. We'll cover the old versus the new, how DAOs actually work, tokens, voting and ownership, real-world DAO examples, the benefits and hidden risks, and finally, the future of organizations. Let's get into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the old versus the new.
To see what's actually being disrupted here, we kind of have to look at the baseline. In a standard, centralized company, you've got a CEO making the big decisions, managers supervising and staff following orders. Sure, it's efficient, but it heavily concentrates power, it really lacks transparency, and it creates this massive single point of failure. If the leader makes a bad call, the whole ship goes down. But on the flip side, a decentralized DAO relies on a bottom-up system. We're talking shared community control where power is distributed, decisions are totally transparent, and everyone is an active participant, not just a follower.
All right, moving to Section 2, how DAOs actually work. So we know centralized systems have bottlenecks. Now let's break down this acronym. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Decentralized just means no single person is calling all the shots. Autonomous means the system kind of runs itself based on rules written in code. No constant human micromanagement needed. And organization, well, that just means it's a structured group working toward a shared goal. Put it all together, and you've got a group running on code where members decide collectively.
Let's make this super concrete. Picture a WhatsApp chat. In a normal group, the admin holds all the power, right? They can kick people out or delete messages. But in a DAO version of that chat, no single admin has full control. Instead, the rules are baked into the code itself, and the entire group votes on what happens. So instead of the admin decides, it becomes the group decides.
For a DAO to actually function mechanically on the blockchain, it relies on 4 specific building blocks. Without these, you basically just have a glorified chat room. You absolutely need smart contracts to enforce the rules, a treasury to hold the shared funds, governance tokens to actually give people their voting power, and proposals to drive decisions.
Let's zero in on that first pillar, because it is literally the magic ingredient here. Think of a smart contract like a digital vending machine. You put your money in, press a button, and boom, the machine automatically gives you your drink. No human cashier needed. A smart contract does the exact same thing. It's just computer code that automatically executes once certain conditions are met. So if a rule says, hey, release $5,000 if 60% of members say yes, the code just does it. No manager, no paperwork, and definitely a lot less office politics.
Okay, on to Section 3, tokens, voting, and ownership.
This sequence right here really shows the beautiful, automated logic of how a DAO makes a decision. It all starts with a proposal. Maybe someone has a great idea to fund a new project. Then the community jumps in and discusses it. Next up, voting time. Members vote using their tokens. Step 4, the smart contract on the blockchain automatically tallies those votes up. And finally, execution. If it passes, funds are released instantly. No middlemen, no weird delays, and absolutely no closed-door meetings.
But how is power actually distributed if there's no CEO? Well, that's where governance tokens come in. They act a lot like voting tickets. Generally, 1 token equals 1 vote, which means your influence over the shared treasury is directly proportional to the tokens you hold. 10 tokens, you get a little say. 1,000 tokens, you've got a lot of influence. It's super similar to being a shareholder in a traditional company, but it is entirely digital and completely borderless. DAOs are essentially turning everyday users into active, digital owners.
Next up, Section 4, real-world DAO examples.
So this isn't just some abstract pie-in-the-sky theory anymore. People are coordinating millions of dollars through these structures right now. We're seeing investment DAOs pool money to buy assets, like Constitution DAO, which famously raised over $40 million in a matter of days to bid on a rare copy of the US Constitution. Then there are protocol DAOs, like Uniswap, acting as decentralized governments for massive Web3 platforms that handle billions in trade volume. Plus, you've got grant DAOs funding open-source software and creator DAOs letting fans directly fund independent artists, totally bypassing the big record labels.
Which brings us to Section 5, Benefits and Hidden Risks.
We definitely need a reality check here. The upside? It's undeniably massive. Anyone, anywhere with a basic internet connection can jump into a global digital economy. Geographic barriers? Gone. And because this all lives on the blockchain, you get perfectly transparent records, a genuine voice in decisions, and insanely fast execution thanks to those smart contracts. It honestly sounds like a digital utopia.
But we have to talk about the risks. For instance, whale dominance. Remember how more tokens give you more voting power? Well, if one super wealthy individual, a whale, holds 1,000 tokens, while everyday members only have 30 or 50, that whale can single-handedly dictate the outcomes. It instantly recreates the exact same inequality and centralized power that DAOs were trying to fix in the first place.
And the headaches don't stop there. A single tiny bug in a smart contract's code can be an absolute disaster. Take the famous 2016 DAO hack. A coding loophole let someone siphon out $50 million. There's also this huge cloud of legal uncertainty, since governments are still scratching their heads over how to regulate borderless groups. Oh, and voter apathy. You might have thousands of token holders, but often only a handful actually bother to show up and vote. So yeah, it's very clear, this is still a pretty messy, highly experimental frontier.
Finally, let's look at Section 6, the future of organizations.
So why does all this actually matter to you? Because we are literally building a completely new economic model. In the old economy, we just worked for companies. But in the DAO economy, the goal is to participate in digital networks that we actually own a piece of. This is a monumental shift in human coordination, and it's especially a game changer for emerging markets like Africa and Southeast Asia. Think about it. For millions of people, jumping into a global economy no longer requires a complex visa, endless formal paperwork, or commuting to a physical office. You just need internet access and your skills.
And that brings us to our core takeaway for today's explainer. Instead of trusting fallible human leaders, we can now choose to trust transparent automated systems. By replacing centralized trust with blockchain code, DAOs are doing something truly revolutionary. They're turning everyday users from passive consumers into active voting owners who actually have a real financial stake in the platforms they use every day. I'm going to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on. As this technology continues to evolve and inevitably works through its growing pains, the big question remains. In the future economy, are you going to be just a user, or are you going to be an owner? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and definitely keep exploring this fascinating shift toward decentralized systems.